Hello and welcome to another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
I'm Chris Costa.
So Chris, what would you like to talk about today?
Well, last time it seemed like we finished up setting up a folding process, so maybe we can continue on that line and maybe talk about a collator stitcher type process.
Sure. I have one set up in my database that we can take a look at and go through the fields and how to set that up.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
So let me start by going into File Maintenance. And I'm going to go up to the Cost Center menu and select Postpress. And I have a collator stitcher cost center set up here with a variety of processes. Let's take a look first at this collator stitcher that I have based on the finished sheet. So I'm going to select that and hit the Modify button. All right. So here, when you set up a collator stitcher, first thing you want to set is the costing method, and typically that would be finished sheet. As we've talked about in the past with some of the other post-press processes, it's key that what the costing method that you use should be what is going into the process. In this case, if it were just a stitcher and it was already collated work, you would then say final product. But because you're collating first, you're actually putting the finished sheets into the process, and then what's coming out is the final product.
Right.
Okay? So that's what we'll use for the costing method. Just like any other process, we have our rate fields here, our all-inclusive rate, direct manufacturing, and so on. Just like any other process, you can put in a minimum cost if you'd like. The units per cycle here will be 1 because what's going through this stitcher is 1 finished sheet at a time. We will handle the different pockets that a stitcher has in the fields in a few minutes. The cycles per hour will be, and this is always based on what the costing method is. This is going to be how many finished sheets that this collator can do, can process in an hour. So in this case, I'm setting mine up for 2,500. And then the setup minutes is how much time it takes to set up the machine with 1 pocket. I can also attach a helper code if this machine requires a helper, and you'll see in a few minutes that it can then take that helper code and I can adjust how many helpers it uses based on the number of pockets. Okay. In here, we'll set our percent for additional reps to 100% in case I need, the book I'm stitching is going to have more pockets that can go into this machine at one time, or more signatures, I should say. The repetitions per pass and the number of pockets, these will be equal to the number of, both equal to the number of pockets on the collator stitcher machine. Now here you have the ability to enter a setup per pocket and a slowdown per pocket. So I can add time both to set up the different pockets on the machine, and then I can make it slow down a little bit for each pocket. And the key here is those two fields work based on the fact that this is a finished sheet costing method. With it being a finished sheet costing method, Enterprise will figure out how many pockets you're going to need for a job based on the number of signatures in the job.
Okay.
Okay, so that's automatic. You don't have to tell it how many.
Okay, very good.
And then you have the additional fields that you would have in any post-press process. You can put in a spoilage table, you can put in a speed table. I chose not to here, but you can. You can put in a setup cost if you want to charge a flat setup fee. Another key field that you would want to do for a collator stitcher process, though, is this Bind All Components checkbox. It is a default. It can be checked in the estimate or the order when you select it. But in a case of a collator or stitcher, you typically always want to consider all the other components because you may be binding a book that you have the cover in one component and the text in another, and you want it to consider all signatures.
Right.
So with the Bind All Components checked off, it'll add the signatures from all the components.
Okay. Excellent.
So let's take a look at that in an estimate or an order. So I'm going to OK out of here. And we'll get out of standards. And we'll go into estimating order entry. And I'm going to switch to my work in process as I have a job that has that process in it. And let's edit that job. I'm going to go into the component here and edit the component. And you see I have a quantity of 1,000 here. And this is a booklet, self-cover booklet, so it has 2 signatures. And I'm going to go over to the Processes tab and come down to the Postpress Cost Center type, where you can see I have that collator stitcher process selected here. All you have to do is select the process. There's nothing you need to really enter here. It's already checked off to bind all components. So once you select the process, you're done. And now let's hit the calculate and take a look. So here's my process here. You can see the quantity is 2,000, which is 2 signatures times the quantity of 1,000, so that's where that comes from. And then my time of 0.83 will include the time, the main time based on a rate of 2,500 per hour, plus that additional 5 minutes and of setup per pocket and the 10% slowdown.
Okay.
Okay?
That makes sense. Now, what if I want to see that quantity on the analysis, the job ticket in final product instead of finish sheets?
Yeah, and that's a good point, because you may want your operators to see how many books am I collating, not how many finished sheets.
Right, exactly.
You can do that. There's one, which that is one benefit. You have the quantity in final products, but there's also one drawback, and let's take a look at that.
Okay.
So I'm going to close out of here, and we'll go back into standards. We'll cancel out of this job. And we'll go into cost centers again, postpress, select my collator stitcher cost center, and I have one based on final product. So basically this is going to be set up almost identical, except now, of course, my costing method is final product. My cycles per hour now is in how many final products I can do in an hour through this collator. The other key thing is you can enter something here in the setup per pocket, but Enterprise is going to ignore it. It does not look at the setup per pocket when you have final product. However, it does do the slowdown. So if you can calculate this correctly and have the speed correct with just the slowdown per pocket and have the benefit of seeing the quantity in final products, then that will work for you.
Okay.
So let's take just a quick look at it in an estimate.
Sure.
Or an order. So we'll go back into estimating order entry, and we'll just close out of here. And we'll go into work in process. And we'll take a look at another job here I have that's very similar to the one we just looked at. I'm going to edit the component, go over to the Processes tab. We'll come down to Postpress, and you see I have one based on final product. Again, you just select it. The Bind All Components is selected. There's nothing I need to change here. But when I hit the Calculate button, it'll show the quantity here in final products. And again, it will show the time here, but now this time is just going to have that 10% slowdown.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Any questions?
No, I think that was great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
I'm Chris Costa.
Please look forward for more to come.